What's up, everybody, and welcome to our Talkin' Pop podcast review of episodes 1 and 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Guys, I would say this is one of the more anticipated TV show events of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Going into this, I think, we've talked a lot about Star Wars and specifically Disney-owned Star Wars on this podcast and what a sort of peak and valley experience it has been. Yeah. And so I think expectations for this show were high. And I want to spend time really sort of talking holistically about this. Like we can discuss sort of the beats that happened in the episodes. Like, it takes place 10 years after Order 66. Obi-Wan is still chilling on Tatooine, keeping an eye on Luke Skywalker from afar. The Inquisitors and the Grand Inquisitor are searching for Jedi all over the galaxy. Let's just talk first about the return of Ewan McGregor. And he is, I think, in discussing this ahead of this episode, we're going to have some different opinions on these first two episodes, but I think we can all unanimously agree that it's great to see Ewan McGregor back in this role. He's great. He's fantastic.
I agree. Go ahead, Kelly.
Oh, I was going to say, well, first of all, to our listeners, hello there. Yes. Second of all, see what I did there? And then second of all, yes, like
hello there.
Ewan McGregor is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, and I don't know if you guys have been following, all the different interviews in the press leading up to this. Like, it's just so fun to watch him be back and watch fans like just thrust so much love upon this guy. Yeah. And like, certainly if you go back and watch those prequel movies, like, obviously they have their high spots. They have a few more low spots. He is certainly a high spot of that whole trilogy.
He was the constant throughout that entire trilogy.
Absolutely. I love Ewan McGregor and love
the only bad thing about Ewan McGregor is the prequel trilogy. And I can say this because I saw an interview with him where he made fun of this himself, is his ridiculous hairstyle that he has in Attack of the Clones.
Yes.
His Bee Gees mullet that he's rocking in
That is a Bee Gees mullet. I was trying to think of a comparable. That is, I'm never going to be able to unsee that now. No. For me, the same thing. And I was going to say it was actually, like, it caught me in the feelings a little bit when I was hearing Ewan McGregor talk about and Hayden Christensen talk about their experience during the original, sequels and what they did, knowing that they felt very like under the gun. They felt very disappointed, I guess is probably the best word to use, that they felt like, the reception wasn't what they thought it was going to be. They were pouring so much into it. They were so excited. And it was only afterward that as time went on and you started to, these kids that like us that grew up and they are now telling them like how much those movies meant to them and how passionate they are about like, you are my Obi-Wan.
That was Star Wars for a whole generation, man.
Star Wars for a whole generation. And to see that kind of glint in his eye come back for it was just so heartwarming for me. So to see him back, and he doesn't look like he skipped a beat. And I think just as in general, like he's holding it down again.
What's he doing? Is he's on some sort of like assembly line and is chopping some sort of meat that looks like sashimi. And then
it looks like they've done a big kill, and they're
harvesting from a very giant. As I understand it, like they're used to prior to. Oh gosh, I'm my Star Wars lore fans. You're gonna kill me, but I understand that basically, like there used to be water. Something happened. Now it's a desert. That's like a washed up water creature. They're harvesting his meat. And he's stealing some meat for his little buddy back home. Who,
his dinner.
Yeah, his little dinner snack.
I will say, did you notice the little kind of nod to, like he's stealing that fish, but he also kind of makes that thing that Rey makes where it's like it just kind of almost looks like a powder, and then it just like kind of balloons up.
It turns into a stew.
Stew.
I almost thought it looked more like a bun, like a bread, like a or
no.
some
If
sort
you
of
look
bread.
close at it, it looks kind of like a beef stew.
Stew. All right, maybe perhaps I don't know. I have a feeling Star Wars has a different name for it.
This is why people are tuning in to hear about the different dishes being
What's in that stew?
Yeah. What is in that stew?
What's keeping him alive?
No one's surprised because this is Kathy Kennedy's Star Wars. This entire premise looks to be centered around the Skywalkers. We have little Luke, who is with Uncle Owen, and we have little Leia, who is like, I was kind of surprised. Like, I did not see it going this way. I was really like, we're gonna see little Leia Organa here, and Jimmy Smits is back as
I was
Bail
stoked
Organa.
to see Jimmy Smits back.
Yeah, love Jimmy
that was
Smits.
Great. Yeah.
So the Inquisitors are on Tatooine looking for Jedi, and then they get sort of get a sense that Kenobi is there. I don't want to be like too negative because I think the Star Wars fan community as a whole is extremely negative, like bordering on toxic. So like, I don't want to get away. I don't want to be a part of that. I want to just sort of like take this for what it is. But I just like people who complain that the Star Wars timeline is all over the place and has no respect for what came before it. Like, it gets validated when in the first 2 episodes, Reva, the third sister, just kills the Grand Inquisitor. And
as far as we know,
I don't think he's dead.
I've been hearing some stuff.
She's unhinged, and we don't quite know why she's unhinged. I know we're gonna figure out why eventually, but it's just like,
well, they already. I don't know that we are. I think they already kind of got to it a little bit, which in and of itself is a bit of a bummer because they were already just kind of like. Was she supposed to have been in the Jedi Order? To me, it sounded that way. And then,
well, when you first open,
the fact that we're sitting here and the 3 of us are unclear on it tells you all you need to know.
Well, when you first open up on the show and we're back at Order 66, they very clearly, like at the beginning, the first shot, it's a little black girl. So I think that's heavily implying that this is a young third sister. And then just to jump right into it here, Rob, like. When we saw little Luke, great. Also, like, shout out, I love Joel Edgerton as Uncle Owen. Like, he's great. He's fantastic. And then when we saw, like, little Leia Organa, I kind of at first went like, oh, like, I was like, okay, like, we're going to kind of have a little moment and see where she is and whatever. And then it started becoming very clear to me that this is what we were going to focus and build the story on.
At least in this episode, I'll say that. I'm hoping that was
Disney Star Wars, baby. If it doesn't have the name Skywalker in it, we don't know what to do. They have that printed on the wall in their office.
But this is the Skywalkers, and it seems very like. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not trying to be negative.
The whole thing went downhill for me as soon as we had the embarrassing little chase through the forest where you've got Flea and his goons. It was like a Looney Tunes Coyote and Roadrunner chase.
Yeah.
Like it was so goofy.
Yeah. Silly.
And then we I could rant about this all day, but at the crux of it, you have completely undone the like significance of Princess Leia reaching out to the mythical Obi-Wan Kenobi in A New Hope. What like you've completely undone her belief that there is a Jedi named Obi-Wan Kenobi out there and she's calling to him to help her through this situation in A New Hope. Instead, they've already hung out. They've gone on an adventure. They've exchanged emails. Like, it is so...
Kelly, this is my point, and I see that this is why I didn't want to do too much of a recap today. Like I like anyone who's watching this has seen it, like they know what happens.
Yeah.
I wanted to sort of pick at that sort of concept, and that's something I see a lot on like Reddit and stuff with the Star Wars fans, that this sort of Disney era of Star Wars frustrates them, is there's no sort of consistency and respect for the timeline. And I think this is where having someone like a Kevin Feige to oversee everything and to watch these things and go, no, we can't do that because this is really beneficial.
It's so crazy to me that it's the same company. It's not even like you're going, well, Disney's doing this and Warner Brothers is doing that and Sony's doing this or whatever. It's like, no, it's not even like we're using it as like a compare. It's the same company. And you've had this level of success that you've had with Marvel because you had a Kevin Feige going, this needs to be this because it's going to turn into this. And if we do that, it's blah, blah, blah. And so where we're talking here about like the negativity and things like that, I'm on board with some of it. And not because again, I've said this 1,000 times and I'm going to keep saying it. It's not like they're doing it on purpose to like piss people off or whatever, but it's just like, there just seems like there's like a level of disorganization going on there.
Totally.
Brad, you took the words right out of my mouth. And these 2 episodes encompass how I felt about this sort of Disney era of Star Wars. There's some really cool shit in these 2 episodes. Like the Vader
awesome.
reveal.
Yeah.
Cool Vader reveal is awesome. Yep.
Oh my God. That was it. I mean, that saved that episode for me. It was
like cool as hell. But it's like, the overall story is like you said, disorganized. It feels scattered. It feels all over the place. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and I asked you guys, I said, are they making a mistake not making this a movie? And watching these 2 episodes, I kind of feel like they are. It's just,
because they're
again, like we're 2 episodes in, and it's like we've got 4 left. I'm already starting to get a little worried as to like, how are you going to wrap this up? How are we going to get, like, are we going to do all the things we need to do? Like, it's just,
I think they will. I don't
know.
My hope is that these first 2 episodes, my new hope for this show is that these 2 episodes were almost like a prologue, and that we were just getting set up and oriented to have Obi-Wan Kenobi be back in the mind space to be Jediing.
For lack of a better word. Yes.
For lack of a better word. And then you also have his realization that Darth Vader is still alive. And I'm hoping that if like we sort of, like if little Leia Organa goes home and we never see her again, I can maybe say that this show can be redeemed. If we spend another 4 episodes with this annoying little girl, I don't know, seriously. Like,
no, I'm the one who's supposed to hate children, Kelly.
I was just going to say, as soon as episode 2 started, I went, again, I feel like Rob pops in my head when I see certain things. This was another one where I just went, oh, because I could just tell it was so heavy-handed with the kid again. And I was like, but okay, like to everybody's point here, was that necessary? No. Like there's so much meat on the bone with this storyline.
Yep.
Why?
Why did you do this? This didn't need to be 2 episodes.
It added nothing. Nothing to the story.
Exactly. And we could have found a completely, like we could have literally had, because I like the Inquisitors. So it's like we could have had the Inquisitors come and we, through some sort of expositional dialogue, we overhear that Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker is still, like, we didn't need a Leia Organa abduction story to arrive at that reveal, because that's all it serviced.
And it wasn't necessary.
The Inquisitors are Force-sensitive beings. They're on Tatooine because they're hunting another Jedi. There's no reason why when they get to Tatooine, they don't sense the presence of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you're off to the races. And then he comes to observe what's happening, and that's where he finds out that Vader is still alive.
Well, the one thing I was going to say, too, is as much as I thought episode 1 was very good. I thought it set up a lot of stuff. Episode 2 lost me. Not like completely, but just like for that episode until the very end, where it was like that big reveal that he realized, you know, he was alive and blah blah. But the one thing I was noticing and starting to kind of take away from those first two episodes was the trailers that we did get for this series. What they pulled was mostly from those first two episodes.
Yes.
So
agreed.
I absolutely love that there is a lot of question marks right now as far as what they're going to do. And like we just said, like I am in no way, shape, or form saying that this is a throw the baby out with the bathwater type situation. And I actually very much doubt it will end up being that way. I just think that this was just an odd step in like what seemed like such an obvious story to tell. And I could almost see it in my head, like how they were going to go through it. And I'm just kind of like, but why? And we're just talked about a Kevin Feige situation. Why have they not just paid Jon Favreau what he needs at this point and just go, here you go.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I have chirped the Disney Lucasfilm team for their reliance on Skywalkers. And the reason why I always come back to that is, to me, I see a team of executives who are scared to step beyond the comfort zone of the Skywalker, but the audience is begging you to do that. Like, we don't want to see Skywalkers anymore.
No.
That's why when you see a trailer for something like Andor, you're like, nice. Like, I don't need to hear the
Skeleton Crew coming out looks great, or sounds great. Yeah.
I know Luke appeared at the end of season 2, but like, what is the most universally praised piece of Star Wars content since Disney took it over? The Mandalorian. Aside from Luke showing up to take Grogu at the end, because like, yes, we saw him later, but that was in Boba Fett. So if you just want to isolate the Mandalorian, you see him at the end of season 2. But other than that, there's no Skywalkers. It's just like, we love the Skywalkers. They're a huge part of the story. Like, they live in everybody's hearts. But to me, it just seems like there's this fear to step outside the comfort zone, the Skywalker comfort zone.
But we talked about this, and I feel like there is an overarching line of thought that we have kind of talked about on this podcast before. Go check out our Top Gun episode. But we just discussed this in terms of when it feels shoehorned in, when certain tropes and nostalgia dumps and things like that work, and when they don't work, and how to find that sort of balance. And so when you deal with something like this, meaning all of Star Wars, I think there is a place and a time to bring back the Skywalkers. I don't think it needs to be like a one or the other kind of situation. I thought Boba Fett, the Mandalorian did that perfectly, where it was that last episode. Totally. And then going into Boba Fett, we saw like that interaction between Grogu and Luke and all of that stuff. I just think that they're synonymous with Star Wars. To try to ignore it is silly. But I like, just build up that lore. Build it up, build it up, build it up. Give it enough time to breathe, and then come back. Because right now, it's not that we're even sick of it. It's just that we want to see other stuff. It's not special anymore. You got to give us time to let it breathe. Allow it to become special again. Because I guarantee you, in the long term, if you just let it breathe and then circle back, people will be on board and will be just starving for another Skywalker-esque story. And so with this right now, I do think that, yes, it's working its way in and out of is it a Skywalker story, or is this truly just kind of like a Kenobi story, whatever. I think they're striking a balance right now. It's definitely leaning more on the Skywalker stuff, which would be fine. But then, like I said, don't overstuff it with stuff that we don't care about. We didn't need to see.
It's just so unnecessary.
We didn't need to see an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old, whatever, Leia running around and somehow escaping Obi-Wan, like in the most simple way, like running through the market. And like, it was
Kelly, here's the only thing that would have made that Flea and Leia chase better, is if Leia was running away from him, and Flea said, "What are you, chicken?"
Yeah.
And then
literally
Leia turns around and goes, "Nobody calls me chicken."
Literally,
Nobody calls me yellow.
there is some Mickey Mouse Sesame Street level writing happening in this show with the dialogue. So if they said that, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Like, there is some brutal lines of dialogue happening in this show. And then you have a character like Kumail Nanjiani who comes in, where I thought, oh, that's such a fun concept that you have a guy who's like pretending to be a Jedi to swindle people. Yeah. And then 10 seconds later, he's like, I actually want to just like redeem myself. And like, here, I'm going to tell you how to get to your ship. And it's like, what? Like, it's just and let me tell you, like, you know, Rob, you mentioned that we've sometimes been a little harsh on Star Wars, and we've you know, criticized their reliance on the Skywalkers, but I truly wanted to love this show. Like,
it's not over, Kelly. It's not over.
But I know it's not. But what I'm saying is that I don't go into these things with, because you were mentioning sort of the toxicity around Star Wars fandom. I do not go into these things with a negative mindset. I want to like it, but boy, oh boy, like we watched it. We had, you know, had the movie theater kind of set up because we were so ready to take this in, and we watched those first 2 episodes, and we turned the lights back on, and we were like, that was rough.
The track record of sticking the landing on these shows, especially when Favreau and Dave Filoni are not involved, scares me. It scares me. And so I think, Brad, I'm with you. It's not over. We got 4 episodes to go. We still haven't seen Vader. But if I'm looking in my crystal ball here and I'm predicting the future based on those 2 episodes, and I hope I'm wrong, I will gladly come on here and I will sit and I will eat crow in front of the 2 of you and anybody else who's watching this. But I just am getting this sense that when this show is said and done, I'm going to look at it the same way as I look at certain other Star Wars content, where I'm going to be like, there was some really cool moments in that show and cool scenes and great actors and great performances, but the overall story was not the best. And that already getting that vibe a little bit.
I believe it or not, I'm actually not. I think that like I said, I don't really understand what the thought process was behind that episode 2, but there's just so much meat on the bone with this storyline that they're going to tell us. I just don't see how this is going to be a miss. But
to that point, Brad, like, I think that's what I'm sitting here looking incredibly stressed out about this show. And it's because, like, and I'm not a huge, like, consumer of the animated content on Star Wars, like, totally transparently. But however, I am familiar with sort of the way in which those shows have enriched the world of Star Wars. And I think what's so disappointing about these first 2 episodes, and what scares the crap out of me about the upcoming 4, is we have so many interesting stories available to us. There's you know, threads we could pull about Ahsoka. There's threads we could pull about you know, Jabba the Hutt, even like just anything else. And we chose to pull on the Skywalker threads. We chose to take the most generic, boring direction we could have taken by relying on Luke and Leia. I'm so disappointed that you have this room of creative minds at Disney, the Imagineers at Disney, who couldn't go, to Rob's point, who couldn't go, let's do something a little different here.
I can't, you can't convince me now. I've watched everything, and you can't convince me that there is not a reluctance amongst that table of whatever the leadership team, the decision makers at Lucasfilm, that there's a reluctance and a nervousness to venture outside of that safety zone. And I just go and do a focus group. People, like, that's what we want. That's what we're craving.
But they do stuff like that. That's what's mind blowing.
Yes,
like,
I know
these major studios.
Learn from
that's all they do.
Yes.
Well, that's just what I mean, but that also circles back to the original conversation of like it feels a little disorganized. And we came on here, did a whole discussion about how Book of Boba Fett just all of a sudden turned into Mandalorian 2.5, and we were like,
Yep.
season 2.5, and it was like, what's happening? Like
Yeah.
it just all of a sudden made this shift, and they never went back. The only thing I'll say at this point is now Leia's gotten her little episode. If they try to do this whole thing with Luke now, I'm gonna lose it. Because now you'll of a 6-episode arc of a show. You can't. But so now it's like, well, now we've just spent a whole episode with Leia. So what is Luke just gonna be like? And he's the one he's supposed to actually be watching. So I'm like, we're definitely gonna get some time with him. And if you make it heavy, oh boy, I know. I still think this last word, I will just say this. I still am very hopeful. I think they're gonna get through it fine. I think this was a weird speed bump that they hit.
I think you're right. I hope you're right, actually. I think we should all just go and take a sip of some blue milk and just relax.
Maybe have a stew.
Yeah, have a stew. And just
relax.
I want to be clear. Didn't hate it. Didn't turn it off going, that was the biggest waste of time, but was really like, oh, we're gonna do this again. That's how I felt.
I really want this to be good for Hayden Christensen. Like I'm like this.
Well,
guy,
he was the biggest like of the whole thing so far. So
if that's him in the Bacta tank,
it is him.
He looks
that was yes.
He had the signature. He had the signature scar like right here on his head. And that's him.
For the record, if you want to go and tell like more Vader Anakin stories, I'm okay with that. There's a whole world of Vader we can explore. Let's just take Luke and Leia and let's put them on
and to
let's
what you
just
said,
say, you guys sit here for a little while.
And
keep them in the background. That's where they're supposed to be anyways. They had a whole like 3 of the original movies. That was all them. Like that's what like we get it. They're there. Well, we already know what's going on with them. We don't need more information.
And what you said at the beginning,
they're hiding.
What you said at the beginning is like, let's honor the movies that were. Like,
yes,
we don't need stop filling in holes that nobody's asking to be filled in. Like, I am totally okay as a Star Wars viewer to accept that between the point at which these 2 children were dropped off with Uncle Owen and with Jimmy Smits, like that they lived pretty normal lives.
We're not going to call him Senator Organa. We are going to call him Jimmy Smits.
What? That's who he is to me. God. That's who he is and always will be.
Jimmy Smits.
I am fine that they live normal lives without being abducted and having adventures between now and A New Hope. Like just drink your blue milk, work on the farm.
Do you want to know why? Because they're supposed to be unaware of the fact that they matter. Other than maybe Princess Leia because she was a princess, but Luke especially is supposed to be very unaware.
Exactly.
So to your point, Kelly, Leia better have been the only one that maybe had an inkling of who Obi-Wan was or whatever, because I mean, you could say she's young, maybe she forgot, but like maybe she forgot who he was. But put aside from that, like please God, don't start getting into like, oh, Luke did know some stuff. They did have some run-ins. No, they didn't.
Guys, before we get out of here, last thing I want to hit on this, we're already giving them a mulligan going into this show because we know that there's going to be some confrontation between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, which completely undoes the, when I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master. Like just totally throws that away. So we're already giving them a mulligan. We're already saying, okay, fine. It'll be cool. We'll forget about that.
I will say this because Vader's still supposed to be in this kind of like repair mode and like everything else, and like they're trying to make him better, and like by the time you see him in Rogue One, he is at like full strength and like that whole thing. So I think that there's a chance that you could blur the edges a little bit and say like, maybe he wasn't at his full strength yet. And so now
10 years
when they see, yeah, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm saying
in the back to tank, man.
But listen,
for a while.
That's
I'll say
a decade in the back to tank.
I'll say this though, but like there's a lot of time that the Emperor and Darth have been spending this time like growing his power, growing this, growing that, his understanding of the dark side, all these kinds of things. I think that you could interpret it as him being like his highest form of himself by the time we get to A New Hope, and like that's why he says that. I feel like that's okay. I'll stick with you on the Leia thing though. That's
Brad, we got to get you a job at the Brad, we got to get you a job at the Lucasfilm executive table with that cell job.
No,
oh my goodness.
Everything's fine.
Yeah. Forget about that.
No, we're fine. Everything's just watch the show. No.
All right, guys. Once again, we've overstayed our welcome.
No, we're not. They like it. They love it.
Keep it locked right here on the channel. We got a Stranger Things review coming your way very soon.
Oh, yeah.
Looking forward to breaking that whole part 1 of that season down with you guys. Got lots of fun stuff to talk about.
Side note, I was wrong. I was wrong. Do you remember?
Yes,
I said
wrong.
I thought the whole season was coming out.
Yep.
There you go.
Well, this is the new Netflix way of doing things. But anyways, we'll talk about that when we get there. Hit the like and subscribe button below so you don't miss that. I promise you we will not be nearly as negative on that review as we were on this one. But sometimes you just got to air a grievance, and that's what we did here today. So hit that like and subscribe button below, and thanks so much, guys, for watching.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.